way.
Thanks.
Step to the family, you'll be showing up directly. Make yourself comfortable.
Oh, very good.
What? Oh, the old one, yes.
Yes, Oliver Blaydes, last of the Victorians. I can't take my hat off because it's off already, but I should like to.
Good Lord, you don't really feel like that, do you?
Of course, don't you?
Well, hardly. He's my grandfather.
True, true. Just the same, there's nothing in the Ten Commandments about not honouring your grandfather.
There's nothing about honouring him either. It's left optional. Of course, he's a wonderful old fellow, 19, still going strong, but as I say, he is my grandfather.
Well, I'm afraid the fact of his being your grandfather does not prevent me from thinking him a very great poet, a very great philosopher, and a very great man.
You really mean that, or are you just quoting from the address you come to present?
It's in the address, but then I read the address, didn't I?
Yes, you told me. To Oliver Blaydes on his 90th birthday, homage from some of the younger writers. But do they really feel like that? That's what interests me. I've always thought of him as old-fashioned, early Victorian, and that kind of thing.
Well, he is. Like Shakespeare, early Elizabethan, and that kind of thing.
Shakespeare's different. I meant more like Longfellow.
Yeah.
Don't think I'm setting my opinion up against yours. If you say that Blaydes' poetry is as good as the best, I'll take your word for it. Blaydes the poet, you're the authority. Blaydes the grandfather, I am.
Well then, let me tell you that his best is as good as the best. Simple as Wordsworth, sensuous as Tennyson, passionate as Swinburne.
Yes, but what about the modern Johnnies, the Georgians?
Well, when they're 90, I'll tell you. If I'm alive.
Thanks very much. Oh, no. That's not the table where the great masterpieces are written. That's not the pen they're written with.
My dear girl.
Is there a pen there, by the way?
It's yours.
The family's. You have no idea how difficult it is to keep pens there.
Why? Where did they go?
The United States, mostly. Everybody who's met him here makes for the table sooner or later and pinches one of the pens. Land's sake, what a head, they say, waving at the painting with the right hand and feeling behind the back with the left. It's wonderful to see.
Well, it is a wonderful head.
Yes, I will say for the old boy, does look like somebody.
When was this done?
Oh, about 18 years ago.
That's when I would have met him.
You never told me you'd met him. Did you meet me by any chance?
No.
I was 5 then, and people who came to see Blaydes the poet patted the head of Blaydes the poet's granddaughter and asked, "Were you going to be a poet too when you grow up?"
And what did Blaydes the poet's granddaughter say?
Urged on by Blaydes the poet's son-in-law, Blaydes the poet's granddaughter offered to recite her grandfather's well-known poem, "A Child's Thoughts on Waking." I'm sorry you missed it, Royce. It's no good asking for it now.
That's a poor man. He was there with his daughter, not your mother. She would have been younger than that.
You mean Aunt Isabel?
Yes, Isabel Blaydes. And that was 18 years ago.
Any grandfathers living?
No.
Lucky devil, but I don't suppose you realise it.
No. I don't think I realised.
I suppose I shouldn't mind so much if I had a famous father. I should think I had something to do with it. That he wouldn't have begun to become famous until I'd been born, but the poet Blaydes was a worldwide celebrity long before I came on the scene, and, well, I've had it hanging over me ever since. Why do you think I'm a member of the club?
I don't know. It's a perfectly decent club. We're all very happy there.
Yes, but why did they let me?
Well, but once we begin to ask ourselves that question,
Yes, but you missed the whole point. The whole point is I don't want to live in this house. Do you realize I've never had a house I could call my own? A house where I could ask people? I brought you along this afternoon because you got permission to come anyhow with that address of yours, but I shouldn't have dared to ask anybody else from the club. Here we all are and always have been, living not our lives, but his life as well. Just because he likes it so.
Yeah. Yes, I know.
Septima! Oh, and here comes the vicar's wife. There you are. Why didn't you? Oh, this is Mr. A.L. Royce. How do you do?
How do you do?
You'll excuse me, Mama, Mr.
Royce, Mother. A.L. Royce.
Septima. This is naturally a rather busy day, Mr. We hardly expected. You'll understand.
Of course, of course.
Yes,
Mr. Royce has come to see grandfather.
to see grandfather. Oh, that's out of the question. I'm very sorry, but perfectly out of the question. My daughter shouldn't have held out hopes.
She didn't. You're barking up the wrong tree, Mother. It's father who invited.
Yes, I'm here on behalf of sort of my contemporaries.
Homage from some of the younger writers.
Mr. Blaydes was kind enough to indicate that perhaps.
Mr. A.L. Royce, Mother.
Oh, yes. I beg your pardon, Mr. Royce. Why didn't you tell me it was Mr. A.L. Royce? Yes, we wrote to you.
Yes.
You must forgive me, Mr. Royce. Septima ought to have told me. Grandfather, Mr. Blaydes, will be ready at 3:30. The doctor was very anxious that no one should see grandfather this year, outside of family, of course. I can't tell you how many people wrote asking if they could come today. Presidents of societies and that sort of thing from all over the world. Father did tell us. Do you remember Septima?
I'm afraid I don't, Mother. No, I didn't believe it.
She was named after the famous poem, you know. Septima, seventh dark daughter.
Septima, seventh dark daughter. I met her once with a black pine stooped to the water. The rock fed river that broke into bottomless pool. Yes.
It is one of his most famous, you know. The Times quoted it only last week.
It has been a favorite of mine for years.
And many other people's, I'm sure. You should see the letters we get.
I wonder you don't have a secretary.
My husband is grandfather's secretary. He was appointed to the post soon after he married me 25 years ago. He saw where his duty lay and has devoted himself to grandfather ever since.
But I'm sure we're all very grateful to him.
Yes. Yes. Grandfathers, you know, refuse a peerage more than once. But I say, if devotion to duty count for anything, William, my husband, ought to have been knighted long ago. Perhaps after grandfather's passed on. But there.
Yes, I was telling Septima that I met Mr. Blaydes once. He was there with his with Miss Blaydes. She was looking after him. He wasn't very well at the time.
Oh, yes, Isabel. Wonderful nurse. I don't know what grandfather would do without her.
Is she still? I thought perhaps she'd been married or.
Oh, no. Isabel isn't the marrying sort. I say I don't know what grandfather would do without her. I almost might say I don't know what she would do without grandfather. Oh, pardon me. I promised father to get these letters out. Have you been round the house at all, Mr. Royce?
No, I've only just.
There are certain rooms that are open to the public. Signed photographs from Tennyson, Ruskin, Carlyle, and many others. All most interesting. Perhaps, Septima, you'd show him around if it would interest you.
Oh, yes, yes, of course.
Right.
Oh,
Oh, have you seen Mr. Royce, William? He seems such a nice man. I'm sure grandfather will like him.
I feel it's very unwise of us to attempt to see anyone today. I made it very clear to Mr. Royce what a great departure this is from our usual practice. I fancy he appreciates the honor we're paying to the younger writers, those who are knocking at the door, so to speak. Are those the letters?
Yes, dear. I've nearly finished them.
I need you to put those aside and sort these telegrams. Isabella's seeing to the flowers.
Oh, yeah, sure to be, dear. How do you mean, sort them?
In 3 piles, one from public institutions or literary bodies, one from distinguished people, including nobility. You'll find 1 or 2 from Her Highness in there. The Duchess has been very loyal to us through the years, and another pile for anonymous or unknown admirers.
Yes, dear.
He'll want to know who remembered him on his birthday. I fancy we're doing better than we did on his 80th, and the day's not yet over.
Yes, dear.
What did we do about drinking the toast last year? Was it in your or in his room?
He was down to lunch last year, dear. Don't you remember?
Yes, how stupid of me. This year has made a great difference. I fear he's breaking up. We shan't have him with us many more birthdays.
Don't say that, dear.
Well, we can but do our best.
What would you like to do about the toast, dear?
Let me think.
Some of these are a little difficult. Do you think Sir John and Lady Wilkins would look better among the royalty and distinguished, or Unknown and anonymous.
Anybody doubtful is unknown and anonymous. I only want a rough grouping. There'll be any general acknowledgement at the Times, which reminds me, put those aside, I want to have an announcement in the later editions of the evening papers. Take this down.
Yes, dear?
Oliver Blaydes, 90 today.
Oliver Blaydes, 90 today.
Oliver Blaydes, the veteran poet, turned 90 amid his family.
Amid his family.
At his well-known house, residence, that's better, at Portman Square. I must remember to get a glass for Mr. Royce. At Portman Square, have you got that?
Yes, dear.
Mr. William Blaydes Conroy graciously granted our representative an interview and said the poet was in good health. It's a pity you never learned shorthand, Marion.
I did try, dear.
Yes, I know. In good health.
In good health.
And keenly appreciative of the many tributes of affection he had received.
Which he had received.
Among those who called were...
Yes, dear.
you can fill that in from the guest book. How does that go?
I wasn't sure how many P's in appreciative. Yes, I thought two was safer.
Yes, so take some notes while Mr. Royce is being received. It may be that Oliver Blaydes will say something worth recording. One would hope that's possible. Send that out. Say 8 names. 3 artistic and literary. 3 nobility, 2 military, political, and maybe 3 societies enough.
Yes, dear. Will there be anything else you want after I've done this?
No, I'm coming with you. I must see you before.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Oh, that's quite all right.
Oh,
Oh, how long has it been?
18 years.
So little.
Isabel.
Austin.
Well, it comes back to you.
In faded memories, the smell of pine woods, and there was band, wasn't there? What was that tune they played? Yes. Why does that make me think, did you cut your wrists on the rocks?
Yes, yes, you remember, look.
Oh, I knew that came into it and I tied it up for you.
Yes, I still got the handkerchief. Somewhere. I'm sure I have.
And there was a dog.
Well, how well you remember Rex, the fox terrier.
Yes.
Was it before that? I had an Aberdeen before that.
Yes, I think that was it.
Thomas.
Thomas.
Ah.
Oh, seems like a lifetime ago. What was that tune again? You had a pipe that you were very proud of with a cracked bowl and a silver band to hold it together. It's funny what one remembers. Have you forgotten?
Well, I remember that pink cotton dress.
Was it 18 years ago or 18?
Yeah.
We'll meet again. Are you married? I seem to remember hearing.
Yes.
Well, I hope it's happy.
No, we separated.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it likely we would be?
Was that the only chance of happiness you gave her?
I think I ought not to have married.
Who am I to order people's lives?
You ordered mine.
Yes, but marriage isn't everything. You've been happy with your work, with your friends, with your books.
Yes. Yes, on the whole, Elizabeth, I should say yes.
I'm glad. How do you do, Mr. Royce?
How do you do, Miss Blaydes? It's delightful to meet you.
Would you like to sit down? Father should be down in a moment. You are here to see him, of course.
Yes, yes. Tell me about it. Or rather, tell me about yourself. You're still looking after him
Yes.
for 18 years.
Nearly 20 altogether.
Has it been worth it?
Well, he's written some wonderful things in those years. Not very many, but very wonderful.
That has been the miracle about the way he kept his youth, and the fire and the spirit of youth. You have helped there.
Has it been worth it?
The world would say yes, but then naturally I'm prejudiced.
Yes.
Might have looked after me for those 18 years.
Did you want it as much as he? I don't mean want. Need.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? The old and the young have the right to be selfish. We both needed you in different ways. And you gave yourself to him. He's wasted your life. I don't think I should have wasted it.
I'm very proud to have helped him. Everything that he wrote will be his. Only I will know how much of it was mine. And that's something not wasted.
Sacrifice.
Am I to regret that?
Do you regret that?
When you asked me to marry you, I couldn't. He was an old man and he needed me. Well, he had his friends, more friends than any man, but he had to be head of a household too. I kept him active, alive. He sharpened his brain on me, on who knows.
Yes. Yes, I understand.
Would you have come to live with us here as Marion and William have done?
No, that is death.
Yes, I knew you felt that way. Oh, I did love you then. I did want to marry you. But you have to understand that he is not an ordinary man. He's Blaydes. What are we in the world but to find beauty? And who could find it as he, and who could help him as I?
I was willing to wait.
Until he died. Every day you would be wondering, how is he today? And I would know you were wondering that. How awful, sitting and waiting for his death.
Yes. Yes, you're right. But if you were back then, knowing what you know now, would you do it again?
Think so? Think it's been worth it? It's not fair to ask me. I'm happy that I've given him those years, but perhaps I would have been afraid of it if I was to know it was to be as long as that. It wasn't for an old man that I've done it. It was for a glorious young poet who never grew up and needed me.
But you have had your bad days.
Don't. It's not fair. Mr. Royce, that was a long time ago. I'm an old woman now.
You're right. I'm sorry. Yes, you're older now.
20 to 38, there is a world of difference between them.
Well, I'm 40.
Don't ask me to pity you. What's 40 to a man?
You're right. In fact, I'm here today masquerading as one of the younger writers.
Well, Father likes to think of himself as an inspiration to the younger writers, so if you brought all their signatures, he'd be very happy to see you. Can I offer you one word of advice? Please be kind to the 1863 volume.
I shan't even mention it.
But if he does, I know it's not his best work, but if you can try to say something kind about it, he has sort of a mother love for it now. Even I want to say, come here, darling, nobody loves you. When you're being praised as much as he has, it's the little praise which is withheld, which is the praise you want the most.
How delightfully human that sounds. You know, I've thought the very same thing in my own small way. Yeah. Have you seen Mr. Royce? Ah, there you are. You've seen the flowers, right?
I hope they've been looking after you properly, Mr. Royce.
Yes, sir.
Shall we say in 5 minutes?
Yes.
How is he today?
He seems much better today.
We'll treat the health in here.
Very well.
Yeah. A little custom of ours, Mr. Royce. We shall wish him many happy returns of the day. He doesn't get dressed out in the afternoon. I shall present you. We'll drink a toast to their health. We'll join us, of course. After that, it all depends on how we're feeling. We may be in the mood for a little chat. We may be too tired of anything other than a few words of greeting. You have the address?
Yes. Oh, I put it down here somewhere.
Put it down somewhere.
Oh,
Mr. Royce, there you are. Septima, well, sit there. Marion over there. Mr. Royce will stand up here next to me. Now, are we ready?
Wait a moment.
Are we ready?
Good day to you all.
Many happy returns of the day, Father.
Thank you, Marion. Happy, I hope. Many I neither expect nor want.
My heartiest congratulations, sir.
Oh, thank you, William. When you are 90, I'll do as much for you.
Very good, sir. May I introduce Mr. A.L. Royce, the famous critic?
We have met before, Mr. Royce.
Yes, sir. 18 years ago at Bournemouth.
Yes, I remember.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Oh, thank you all for wasting your time now on an old man. You must stay and talk to me afterwards.
Thank you very much, sir.
Just a moment, Mr. Royce. Septima.
Congratulations, Grandfather.
Thank you, my dear. I don't know what I've done, but thank you.
Now then, Blaydes.
Blaydes.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that the Jubilee porch, William?
Yes, sir.
May I?
Oh, of course, dear. William?
Do you think? Here you are, sir.
Mr. Royce, I will drink to you, and through you to all that eager youth which is seeking each in its own way for beauty. May they find it at the last.
Marion, I'm sure you have something to attend to. Septima.
Yes, dear. Father, we're going to be going now.
I shall talk a little to Mr. Royce.
That's right. Don't tire yourself.
Grandfather.
Well,
Come along, dear.
All right.
Mr. Royce has an address to present to you from the younger writers. Mr. Royce?
it is very good of them.
Well, shall I read it, sir?
The usual thing.
Well, pretty much. Hopefully a little better than usual, sir, because I wrote it.
Give it to me. And sit down, please, near me. I don't hear too well. Pretty. I didn't think they took any interest in an old man. Isabel, you will read it to me afterwards and tell me who they all are.
Yes, dear.
Will that do, Mr. Royce?
Of course, sir. Of course. I should like to tell you, sir, to have the privilege of telling you here and on this day that all of us there have a very real admiration for your work and a very real reverence for yourself, and that in signing this we feel that we do more honor to ourselves than to Blaydes, to whom no words of ours can honor as his own have done.
Thank you. But you must read it to me, Isabel. A very real admiration for all my works, Mr. Royce.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Except the 1863 volume.
Well, I have never regretted that, sir.
Ah, you hear it, Isabel.
I can't say it's my own favourite, but I can understand if it were the office. There are things about it.
Isabel, are you listening?
Yes, Father.
Things outside your usual range, if I do say so myself.
Ah, you hear it, Isabel. Didn't I always tell you? Well, we mustn't talk about that anymore. William,
Yes, sir.
what are you doing?
I'm just finishing up a few letters, sir.
Would you be good enough to bring me my copy of the Sordello?
The one which Browning gave you?
Of course. I wish to show Mr. Royce the inscription, an absurd one, all rhymed to Blaydes. You will find it in the library somewhere. It may have got moved.
Certainly, sir.
Father,
Thank you, William. You were saying, Isabel?
nothing. I just thought it was in your bedroom. I was reading it to you last night.
Of course it's in my bedroom, but can't I get my son-in-law out of the room if I want to?
Of course, dear. It was silly of me.
My son-in-law, Mr. Royce, meditates after my death a little book called the Bladesiana. He hasn't said so, but I see it's written all over him. In addition, you understand, to the official Life in 2 volumes. There may be another called On the Track of Blaydes, but I am not certain of this yet.
Father,
All right, dear, Mr. Royce won't mind.
it is very unkind.
You never knew Whistler, Mr. Royce.
Oh, no, sir. He was a bit before my time.
He was the one to say unkind things. But you forgave him because he had a way about him. And there was always the hope that when he had finished with you, he would say something still worse about one of your friends. I sent him a book of mine once. Which one was it, Isabel?
Helen.
Helen, yes. I got the postcards from him a few days later. Dear Oliver, rub it out and do it again. Well, I happened to meet him the next day, and I told him I was sorry I couldn't take his advice, because it was too late now to do anything about it.
You heard that, Mr. Royce.
No, I'll go to it.
Well, it has been published.
I told my son-in-law, anything which I tell my son-in-law is published.
I always say Father made it up.
But you didn't know Jimmy Whistler, my dear. There was nothing he couldn't have said, but a most stimulating companion.
I'm sure he must have been so.
So was Alfred. He had a great sense of humor. All of us who knew him well knew that.
You know, I find it a pity that most people nowadays think Tennyson is somewhat of a prig with no sense of humor. I feel it is his association with Queen Victoria that had something to do with it. Court poet is so very unstimulating, you know.
Yes, you're right. It was a pity. I went to court once.
You?
Yes. I went to Osborne to see the Queen. Alfred's doing I always suspected, but he wouldn't own to it.
Tell him about it, dear.
Yes. I had a new pair of boots. They squeaked. They squeaked all the way from London to the Isle of Wight. The Queen was waiting for me at the end of a long room. I squeaked in, I bowed. I squeaked my way up to her. We talked. I was not allowed to sit down, of course. I just stood shifting from one foot to the other and squeaking. She said, "Don't you think Lord Tennyson's poetry is very beautiful?" And I squeaked and said, "Damn these boots." A gentleman in waiting told me afterwards that it was contrary to etiquette to start a new topic of conversation with royalty. So, I suppose that is why I have never been asked to go it again.
That was your joke, Father, not the gentleman in waiting's.
Must have been.
Isabel knows all my stories. When you're 90, they know all your stories.
Well, I like hearing them again. And Mr. Royce hasn't heard them yet.
tell you one you don't know, Isabel. George Meredith told me this. You found a cricket, Mr. Royce.
Oh, yes, sir. Very.
So was Meredith. So was I. A young boy playing for his school, the important match of the year. He gets his letter only if he plays. You understand? Just before the game began, he was sitting in one of those, what do they call them, a deck chair. When it collapsed, his hand between the hinges, with 3 crushed fingers, no chance of playing, no letter. At that age of tragedy, it seems that one's whole life is over. You understand?
Oh, yes, sir.
But if once the match begins with him, he has his letter, whatever happens afterwards. So he decides to say nothing about the fingers. He sits with his hand in his pocket. Nobody has seen the accident. Nobody guesses. His side is in first. He watches, his hand in his pocket. When his turn comes to bat, he forces a glove over the crushed fingers and goes to the wickets. He makes nothing. Well, then it doesn't matter. He is the wicket keeper and has gone in lost. But he knows now that he can never take his place in the field. And he knows, too, what an unfair thing he has done to his school to let them start their game with a cripple. It's impossible now to confess. So in between the innings, he arranges another accident with the chair and falls back on it with his fingers, his already crushed fingers this time in the hinges. So nobody ever knew, not until he was a man, and it all seemed so very little and far away.
What a horrible story.
Is it true, sir?
So Meredith said, he told me.
Lord, what? I think I should have forgiven him for that.
I could tell you another story you don't know, Isabel.
Not tonight, dear. You don't want to tire yourself out.
No, not now, but I shall have to tell you one day. Yes, I shall have to tell you. I shall have to tell you.
Perhaps it's time.
Thank you so much for seeing me, sir. I shan't let you get tired of me.
Goodbye, Mr. Boyce. You like the 1863 volume, Isabel?
Yes, dear.
Thank you very much, sir, and I shall remember.
You can see your way out. I don't like to leave him.
I can see you again.
I'm always here.
Bye.
Isabel, where are you?
I'm here, dear.
How old did you say I was?
90.
90. I'm tired.
I shouldn't have let him stay so long. I'm sure you're ready for bed.
I want you to hold my hand. Did you say I was 90? No going back at 90. Only forward into the grave that's waiting for you. So cold and lonely there, Isabel.
I'm always here with you, dear.
Hold me tight. I'm frightened. Did I tell you about the boy who carried it off?
Yes, you told us, dear.
No, not that boy, the other one. Are we alone, Isabel?
Yes, dear.
Listen, Isabel, I want to tell you.
Tell me tomorrow, dear.
There are no tomorrows when you're 90. You're 90 and they have all left you alone.
Very well, tell me now, dear.
Yes, come closer. Listen, Isabel. Isabel.
I say again, Oliver Blaydes' proper resting place was Westminster Abbey. The nation expected it. The nation had a right to it.
But we couldn't go against his own wish, dear. His last wish.
If it was his last wish, why wasn't it conveyed to me?
He told Isabel, dear.
So we are to believe, and I was careful to point that out in my letter to the Times. But under what circumstances?
What, dear?
An old man on his deathbed, his faculties rapidly going, makes a request for a quiet interment. Certainly in the weeks before his passing, although it was a subject I myself was hesitant to initiate, Oliver Blaydes always gave me the impression that he expected internment at the Abbey.
Yes, dear. I dare say I shall feel it more later, but right now I'd rather think of him where he wanted to be himself.
After all, Shakespeare isn't buried in the Abbey.
I don't think that has anything to do with it, Septima. The Abbey had a right to him.
Well, we can't change that now, dear.
Well, I shall mention it to Isabel the next time I see her.
Very well, dear, but don't worry her more than you need. I feel rather uncertain about her. She's been strange since he died.
Ah, there you are.
I'm sorry if I've kept you waiting.
Oh, it's all right, dear.
I was just telling Marian that I'm more than ever convinced that Oliver Blaydes' rightful resting place was Westminster Abbey.
No.
Even if he did make a request for a quiet internment.
He didn't make a request one way or the other.
But my dear Isabel, you told us so.
You did say so, dear.
Yes, I owe you an apology about that.
An apology?
There's something I have to tell you all. There's something I have to tell you all. Will you please listen? William, sit down.
What is it, dear?
You've been acting very mysterious lately.
I wanted to wait till after you've been buried. I will not be mysterious now. I shall only be too plain.
What is it?
Well, I told you that he didn't want to be buried in the Abbey, but really it's because it was quite impossible that he should be.
Impossible?
I'm sure the dean would have been only too
Impossible because he had done nothing to deserve such an honor.
Well,
Please, listen to me. Ask questions afterwards. You're going to think I'm mad. I wish I were. 70 years ago, there were two men living together in a room in Islington. Boys, really, 22 perhaps. Both of them eager, ambitious, certain of themselves, very certain of their futures. But only one of them was a poet. He was a genius, and perhaps he was the greater of the two because he knew he didn't have long to live. As the lark sang, so he sang, and the poetry just kept bubbling out of him. Quick, his fingers making sure that he wrote it all down before his fingers grew cold. He had no desire for present fame. There just wasn't time for it. So he resigned himself to live unknown so that in death he might live forever. His friend had desires for present fame, and the two of them lived there together in Islington. One of them writing, always writing. The other writing and then stopping to think about how famous he was going to be, and then envying those who are already famous, and then regretfully writing again. One day the poet grew so ill that he was bedridden, but he was still writing to keep up with the glorious music in his brain. And then one day there was no more writing, no more music. The poet was dead.
Isabel, what do you say?
I don't understand. Who was it?
Good Lord!
The friend was left with the body of the poet and this great monument that he had built for himself. The poet had no other friends but this one, no family that claimed him or asked for him later. It was up to the friend to make sure that the poet won the immortality which he'd given his life. The friend betrayed him.
I say.
I won't believe it. It's monstrous.
I don't understand.
One can see the temptation. Here is this young man of ambition, and here are these masterpieces at his feet, waiting to be picked up, fathered by him. You can think, as most temptations, it probably came on suddenly. The friend copies down the verses written by the poet in a mad hurry, sends them off to the publisher. The publisher's natural acceptance of the friend as the natural author. The friend's awkwardness in undeceiving the publisher. And then a sudden determination to make the most out of an opportunity given. One can imagine many things. What remains? Only and always this. Oliver Blaydes was not a poet. He did not write the works attributed to him, and he betrayed his friend. And that's why I thought he ought not be buried in the Abbey.
Is this true, Isabel?
But it's not the sort of thing that I would make up.
I don't understand. What is it? I don't understand.
Isabel is telling us that Oliver Blaydes stole all his poetry from another man.
Stole it?
Passed it off as his own.
Oh, no, dear, you must be wrong. Why would Grandfather want to steal someone else's poetry when he wrote so beautifully himself?
That's just the point, Mother. Aunt Isabel says he didn't write anything himself.
But there are all those books with his name on them.
Stolen from his friend.
Isabel, how can you? Your own father.
I don't believe it. I had the privilege of knowing Oliver Blaydes for nearly 30 years, and I say that I don't believe it.
Well, I knew him for some time, too. He was my father.
When did he tell you this?
It was that last night, his birthday.
How? Why? Why should he tell you?
He seemed afraid suddenly of dying. I suppose he had always planned on telling someone before he died.
Why didn't you tell us before, dear?
Oh,
Please let me. Why didn't you tell us before?
well, I promised I wouldn't say anything until after he had died. And then I thought I should wait till after he'd been buried.
You couldn't have made a mistake. You couldn't have misunderstood him.
No.
You say this other man died how many years ago?
60, 70?
And 60 years after he died, he was apparently still writing poetry for Oliver Blaydes to steal.
He wrote it 60 years ago for Oliver Blaydes to steal.
Then you mean his last volume?
Please let me. You mean his last volume? Published when he was over 80, was stolen from this other man who died nearly 60 years ago?
Yes.
The manuscripts kept by Oliver Blaydes, rewritten as his own, and published in his own age as his own?
Yes.
And can you tell me why, if he had these manuscripts all that time, he didn't publish them earlier?
Well, he didn't dare to. He was always very careful to have something in reserve. And that's why everyone said how wonderfully youthful his mind was at 90, how it kept this spirit and fire of youth. It was the spirit and fire of youth, but of a youth that died 60 years ago.
I call it perfectly disgusting.
No, please, please. That won't get us to the truth. The truth is what we want. You want me to understand that Oliver Blaydes wrote no line of poetry himself at all?
But I remember Grandfather always writing, even when I was a child.
Mother, can't you understand that the Oliver Blaydes we thought we knew never existed?
But I'm telling you, even as a child.
It's no good, she's hopelessly muddled.
Yes, yes. You want me to understand?
I want you to know the truth, that we have all been living in a lie all of our lives, and we finally know the truth. You act as if I enjoy this slander of Oliver Blaydes, as if it brings me some kind of pleasure. I want you to know the truth. Ask me questions, but don't cross-examine me as if I'm trying to keep it back from you.
Yes, yes. The truth is what we want.
As Grandfather said so beautifully in his Ode to Truth. What were the lines?
Oh, Mother.
What I was going to say is that could anyone who wrote so beautifully about truth as Grandfather did tell lies and deceive people as Isabel says he did? You must have made a mistake, dear.
I'll get to that directly. What I want to know now is this. Did Oliver Blaydes write any line of poetry himself?
He wrote the 1863 volume.
Oh!
The washout. By Jove, then that explains it.
Yes, that explains it. Oliver Blaydes thought of himself as a poet too, and that he had just used his friend as a starting off point. And when he put out the volume of his own work and everyone said Blaydes is finished, he went back to his friend and never ventured out on his own again. And that's why he took the criticism so personally. It was the only thing he had ever written.
Yes, that explains it. Oliver Blaydes.
And he didn't write Septimer.
The other man's name is Jenkins.
Christened after Jenkins.
But what about the great stories of the friends he'd had? Were they lies too? No, they couldn't have been. I've seen them here myself.
I remember going to see Uncle Thomas when I was a little girl. Carlisle. Uncle Thomas, I called him.
Well, the friends were there. He deceived them as cleverly as he deceived us.
Tennyson, Browning, Swinburne.
Well, he did have his qualities. He spoke well, and he did have the books. Why should they have doubted him?
Yes.
Is it true?
I wish it weren't.
But is it true?
He told her she wouldn't make it up.
But all of Grandfather's poetry, I've been brought up on it all my life. I've lived on it. And now you're telling me that it's nothing and you've taken him away and you've left nothing?
Nothing.
I don't understand.
Good Lord, I've just thought of something. The money.
Money?
All this. Who does it belong to?
According to the terms of your grandfather's will.
Yes, but it wasn't his to leave.
Not his to leave.
No, Jenkins. All this money comes from the books. At least I suppose it does. And if the books aren't his, then the money isn't either.
Is that so, Isabel?
I suppose so.
You say this other man had no relatives.
None that we know of, but I'm sure there's some out there somewhere.
We shall have to find that out.
Well, as Septimer says, the money isn't ours.
Some
Touch it.
of the money is ours. There was the one volume. It wasn't praised, but it was bought. There was the profits from the investments. Many of the most profitable investments were made at that time with that very money. If it could be established...
It's tainted all of it.
That's going too far, much too far. Naturally, we have an obligation to the relatives of this man, Jenkins. But when that is done, when that is fulfilled...
Well, we want to be generous with everyone, dear. That's only fair.
What are you going to do if no relatives turn up?
There is that, of course.
Well, then we couldn't do anything, could we, dear?
We could bury the money deep underground. We could throw it in the sea. We could give it away, maybe.
That is going too far, much too far.
May I speak for a moment? I think I have a right to say something.
Well,
I want to say this. I have been brought up in a certain way to expect certain things. I wanted to share a studio with my friend and get on with my painting. I wasn't allowed to as grandfather wanted me at home. Perhaps if I had had my way, I'd be earning my own living by now. As it is, we have been brought up, the children and grandchild, of rich people. I can't earn my own living. Aunt Isabel has been telling us about a man who 70 years ago was cheated out of his rights. Apparently she thinks the best way of making up for that now is to cheat me out of my rights. I don't agree with her.
Well, Septimer, it will be difficult, but you are young. You have your whole life ahead of you to do with as you please.
That's what old people always say to people of my age, and they seem to think it excuses any injustice.
Poor grandfather.
Yes, but I don't see why it should be poor Septimer too. Suppose any relations do turn up. Suppose they do, Father. What will they be? Grandnephews or fifth cousins twice removed or something? We've never heard of Jenkins. We've never done anything for Jenkins, and on whose lives Jenkins has had no effect whatsoever. Is there any sort of justice which says they ought to have the money? I have given up a good deal for Oliver Blaydes, and he owes us something.
Yes, you've given up a great deal to Oliver Blaydes, and it ought to be paid back to you.
Even if this other man,
Jenkins
wrote all the other books, except the 1863 volume. It was Oliver Blaydes who arranged to have them published. He's therefore due a commission's agent 10%.
Oliver Blaydes, the great commission's agent.
10% of all the monies are then rightfully due us.
10%, dear, that seems very little.
I'm only speaking on a minimum basis. We have the money from the one volume, we have the 10%, we have the profit from the investments. There may be other sums due us. Naturally, we want to be fair to the relatives of this man,
Jenkins.
But as Septimer points out, we also want to be fair to the relatives of Oliver Blaydes, who have at least done something to earn the money that's due them.
Yes, we will be fair to everyone, dear.
Well, I think you're going to give the Jenkinses much too much. What right have the Jenkinses to any of the money which grandfather made by investing?
Well, we wouldn't like to think of them starving because we weren't very fair.
They let Jenkins starve. They didn't worry about him.
The whole thing is very complicated. We should require an arbitrator, at any rate, a qualified chartered accountant.
Oh, that's better, dear. Let someone else decide what's fair and what isn't.
It's horrible. Horrible.
What, dear?
The way you're talking about the money as if all we've lost is a sum of money. The money is tainted, all of it. It's not ours. We can't profit off a betrayal committed by Oliver Blaydes.
That's pure sentiment, Aunt Isabel. Quite apart from not being reasonable, it's not even practical. Where are you going to draw the line? If you want to throw the money away, then you'll have to throw the house away and everything in the house away. All of our clothes to begin with, because everything that belongs to us owes itself to that betrayal of 70 years ago. We should look very funny, the four of us, walking out from the house tomorrow with nothing on and starting life all over again.
I don't think that's what she was talking about, Septimer.
Either you feel it or you don't. And I will give up my share, so there should be plenty even after you've been fair to the others.
Isabel, I don't think you know how much you hurt me by these words. Ever since you made this revelation, this terrible revelation, I have tried to keep my true feelings, my deep feelings under control. I suppose I am the one affected most by this. In short, it is the end of a career, the end of a life's work. You know how devoted I was to Oliver Blaydes.
Simply devoted himself, dear.
I set aside whatever other ambitions I may have had.
He could have done anything, dear.
And devoted myself to one thing and one thing only, Oliver Blaydes. It was the great pride of my life to be his son-in-law. It was the great pride of my life to be his secretary. But it also was a great pride to know that somehow, some way, I was helping other people to know and to love this great man, this poet, Oliver Blaydes, as I knew and loved him. And now you tell me he's nothing? A hollow mask? I think I have some right to feel resentment against this man who's tricked me for all these years, who's used me. When I think of how I've spent all this time collecting materials for his life work, when I think of how I wrote down every word he said, when I think of how tomorrow I shall be held up to the derision of the world when it is shown to be the gullible fool I am, I think I have a right to be angry. But I have tried to remember he was your father, and he was Marian's father. And through it all, I have been concerning myself with how best to clean up this wreckage Oliver Blaydes has left behind. It's not for you to scorn me. Me, who is the chief one to suffer.
Poor father.
I don't want your pity. I just want Isabel to understand.
Yes, it's difficult. Your occupation is gone.
I know this revelation has affected everyone in this room. But to me, it's absolutely crushing.
But to me, what has it been to me? You've enjoyed your life here, every moment of it. If William hadn't been secretary to Oliver Blaydes, he would have been secretary to somebody else. It's what he's best suited for. And you've had your interests, 100 interests every day to keep you active and eager. What about me? What have I become? A wasted woman? The wife I might have been? The mother I might have been? With a man of my own, children of my own in my own home? He asked me to marry him. Tall and straight and clean he was, and he asked me to marry him. We should have been happy. Shouldn't we have been happy? He asked me to marry him. It was such a long time ago. I was pretty then, young then, and the world was full of such wonderful things. I used to laugh then. We used to laugh together. He asked me to marry him, and I sent him away. I sent my man away. I was helping the great Oliver Blaydes. You thought I liked nursing. I can hear you saying it. I hated it. Do you know what it's like to live with an old man day after day, night after night, and then year after year? Always a little more difficult. Do you know what it's like to be young and only live with old age? Slowly watch your own youth creep up to meet up with his old age. But it wasn't for an old man that I was doing it. It was for the immortal poetry. I was helping Oliver Blaydes. The wife I might have been, the mother I might have been. How beautiful the world was all those years ago.
Hello.
Hello.
Very busy.
Yes.
Where is everybody?
About somewhere.
Oh, I've been away for a few days.
Oh,
Yes, you seem very excited about
I'm
it.
sorry. There's an awful lot to be done, and not a whole lot of time to do it in.
Oh, I see. You won't mind me asking, but are you living in the house?
Practically. The last 3 days, anyway.
Oh, really? What's happened?
Miss Blaydes, as you know, is executive to Blaydes, and I'm helping her out. Your father's helping too, but there's an awful lot to be done.
Oh, I see. I say, have you... What about, though?
Miss Blaydes has told me.
Oh, nobody else yet?
No.
I've been rushing for the papers every morning, expecting to see something about it.
Well, we need to look at everything, you know, the financial side as well as the other, and then make a straightforward statement about what has happened and what we are prepared to do.
Yes, can't really write to the Times and say, "Dear Sir, Blaydes' poetry was written by Jenkins, yours faithfully." When will it be, do you think?
Hopefully by tomorrow.
No. What do you think about it all?
Think about it. What do you mean think about it? Try not to think about it, but the whole thing is shattering.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, do you really think he did it?
What do you mean? Did what?
Did it? Did Jenkins?
I don't understand. Is there any doubt about it?
Well, why not? Which is more probable? That Oliver Blaydes carried out this colossal fraud for more than 60 years, or that when he was an old man of 90, his brain wobbled a bit, and he started imagining things?
No.
It's all right to say no. Anybody can say no. The old man said, "You refuse to face the facts, Royce. Look at all the will cases you see in the papers these days. Any time an old gentleman over 70 leaves his fortune to anybody but his loving nephews and nieces, they always bring about an action to prove he can't have been quite right in the head when he died. And 9 times out of 10 they win. Well, Blaydes was 90.
Yes, but he left you £1,000.
Well, I guess that was a lucid interval. Look here, you think it over seriously. I read a book once about a man who stole another fellow's novel. Perhaps Blaydes read it too and got mixed up. Why not at that age? Or perhaps he was thinking of using the idea himself. and turning it over and over in his mind, living with it, so to speak, day and night, he might very easily begin to think it was something that had happened to himself at his age. And then on his deathbed, feeling he must confess something, thoroughly muddle poor old fellow. Well, you see how easily it might happen. Hallucination.
You know, Septima, I'm really rather very busy.
Oh, all right. His father in his study.
Yes, also very busy. Now, if you really are going, I wish you'd see if Miss Blaydes could spare me a moment.
Right. She can. Hello, Aunt Isabel.
I'm tired.
Sit down, you've been working too hard.
Are you sure I won't bother you?
Talk to me. I've been working quite hard as well.
Do you think we'll be ready for tomorrow?
Oh, I hope so.
I want to be done with it. It just goes round and round in my mind. I want the whole world to know. What a sensation for them.
Yes. Funny how that comes into it.
What?
Feeling excitement at the back of one's mind when anything unusual happens, however disastrous.
Did I sound very excited?
Sounded alive for the first time.
These last 2 days have helped me. It's been a great comfort having you here. It's good of you to come.
Of course I can.
I was looking through the who's who for an address and I came across your name. You know how one does. I hadn't realized that you were so busy or so famous. It was good of you to come. Your wife died.
Yes,
I didn't know.
10 years ago, but surely...
Is there a certain manner of man whose wife died 10 years ago, which I ought to have been aware of?
Well, no. The fact with which one has lived for years, one feels that it must have impressed itself somehow on others.
I didn't know.
I wish I could persuade you you were quite wrong in not taking any of this money.
Am I quite wrong?
No. That's why it's useless my trying to persuade you. What are you going to do?
Well, I am a born nurse.
And you tied up my hand once.
Well, there you go. I dare say, it's just pride, but I just can't take the money. The others can. You were right about that. They just weren't as near to him as I was. I thought the whole world was going to end.
But now you don't.
No, I don't know why. How hopeful we are. How unbreakable. If I were God, I should be very proud of man.
Let him go on being proud of you.
I'm tough. You can't be a nurse without being tough. I won't break.
But perhaps just a smile occasionally.
And perhaps a smile occasionally.
Isabel, 2 of the passbooks are missing, 2 of the early ones. You haven't seen them, Mr. Rice?
No, I've had nothing to do with it.
You said you found the early ones in the lower drawer of his desk. You told me so.
Yes, I must have overlooked them. I'll check again. There was a lot of rubbish in there.
Can't I?
Oh, yes, please. You know where they are.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Royce. Sorry to trouble you. Isabel, I've been thinking very earnestly about this terrible business.
Yes?
Is this a statement?
Is it?
Well, I've been thinking that if we make this announcement, perhaps we're going too far.
Do you mean about the money?
No. It's not about the money.
What then?
Well, I'm concerned that if we make this announcement, we may be going too far.
You mean about the money?
No.
What then? I don't understand.
Just suppose it were not true. How can we be certain it is true? Once we make this announcement, we can't go back. We can't contradict ourselves and say we made a mistake. It's just irrevocable.
Are you suggesting that we hush it up?
No. You're putting words in my mouth now that I've not yet used. What I am suggesting is that perhaps we're in too much of a hurry to believe this Jenkins story.
Are you suggesting that I've constructed it, dreamed it, imagined it?
It would never occur to me to suggest anything like that. What I am suggesting, as a possibility, worth considering, is that Oliver Blaydes imagined it.
So you're saying that the poetry was his, but he thought they belonged to some other man?
Well, you must remember, he was a very old man. An old man, his faculties rapidly going. Those were the words I used to Marion when I thought I was discussing his request for a quiet internment. An old man, his faculties rapidly going. I say again, an old man, his faculties rapidly going, may well have imagined it. The whole thing may well have been a hallucination.
Or a self-deception?
Exactly! What I am suggesting is that this man Jenkins never existed.
Wouldn't it be nice?
One can understand about how a man on his deathbed feels the need for confession, absolution, forgiveness. Perhaps Oliver Jenkins, instinctively feeling this need, bared his soul to you, not of some real misdeed, but of some imagined misdeed, by who knows what series of ideas his mind had become occupied.
So you mean he meant to confess to a murder or something and got muddled?
Far be it from me to associate any with misdeed with so noble, so knightly a man as Oliver Blaydes.
Knightly?
What I am suggesting is that we must assume this man Jenkins never existed.
Oh, you are assuming that.
The more I think about it, the more I think we must assume it.
Yes, the more one thinks
Well, what
of
do you
it.
think about that suggestion?
Well, it's just so obvious, and I can't believe you haven't thought of it before.
Well, the fact is, I was stout.
Oh,
And the existence of the 1863 volume seemed conclusive.
but now it doesn't.
Now I explain it as we explained it when he was alive. Every poet has his lapses.
Oh.
Well,
Well, as you say, it would be nice if Jenkins never existed. We'd have no scandal, no poverty, and Oliver Blaydes' life would still fit in 2 volumes, just as before. I suppose it's a little late for the Abbey. But other than that, everything would just be as nice as it could be.
oh, you're forgetting the best part of all.
What, William?
The fact that our faith in Oliver Blaydes has not been misplaced.
Oh.
Isabel, have you heard the wonderful news
What news?
about the hallucination?
Oh.
I always felt there must have been some mistake. And now our faith has been justified, as faith always is. Such a comfort to know, to really know at last. Poor grandfather. I think we forget how old he was. And the excitement of that last day, his birthday. And the glass of port, no wonder.
Very strange, very strange. But one could have almost predicted such end.
I will never forgive myself for having doubted. But dear, I think he will forgive us. Wherever he is, he will forgive us.
Yes. I don't think I shall include this serious lapse of faculties at the end in his life story.
Of course not, dear.
So then you won't be needing the passbooks then?
Passbooks.
The Jenkins Fund.
Yes, he wanted to look and see how much.
There is no Jenkins, so there can't be a Jenkins fund. Such a comfort on every level.
So then you're quite happy with the money then?
Well, although firmly committed to the explanation I've just given, perhaps at some time in the future, we could. I mean, there are charities that deal with distressed writers. Perhaps sometime. Well, you know what I mean.
Yes, I think they call that conscience money.
Well, all of that is in the future. The point is that this will no longer be needed.
No, don't touch that.
Isabel, dear.
It's not yours. Royce put his work into it. It's not for you to say.
But really, I was
I
only
say.
Oh, Mr. Royce, we have some wonderful news. We've all decided that Jenkins never existed. Isn't it nice?
Never existed.
Yes, we've decided that he was a hallucination. Wasn't that the word?
Ah. I see. Well, isn't that funny? For what do you think I have here? Found in an old passbook, Jenkins' will.
Oh!
It must be be another Jenkins, for we've just decided that our one never lived.
What is it? What does it say?
It says, to Oliver Blaydes, whom has given me everything, I leave everything. And the bottom it says, God bless you, Oliver.
Oh.
Let me see. Yes, there's no doubt. Let me think.
All those years ago.
Takes care of the money, at least. Anything that would have been the other man's came rightfully to Oliver Blaydes.
Except for the immortality.
That's right, I say nothing of that. And I shall have to rewrite this. The first part can stand, anyways. I'm glad we shan't be bothered with the money. That would have been an impossible business.
I've got it!
What, dear?
Now I understand everything.
What?
The 1863 volume, that always puzzled me. Now I understand. The 1863 volume was written by Jenkins.
Poor old Jenkins.
I liked all of Grandfather's poetry. Some I didn't understand, but...
No, now we can be frank. The 1863 volume was bad, and now we know why. It was Oliver Jenkins to help his friend. What was Jenkins' other name?
Willoughby.
I can see the last scene now. Willoughby Jenkins lying on his deathbed bemoaning the fact that the world will never hear the voice of his poetry, and Oliver Blaydes standing silently beside, resolving that someday, somehow, his dead friend's poetry will be heard. And so, in 1863, his own reputation firmly established, he decides to publish this little collection of his dead friend's poetry, these choicest sheaves of Willoughby's indiscriminate harvest, hoping to protect him from the storm of criticism by the mantle of his own great name. A chivalrous act, but alas, to no avail.
And you will say this in your life of Oliver Blaydes?
I will hint at the doubtful authorship of the 1863 volume. Perhaps it's better not to go into it too fully.
I think it's best if we don't talk about any of the unhappy thoughts which we've all had about Grandfather over these past few days. After all, we never should have doubted. He is Grandfather.
Well. Will you find Septima? I think she ought to know about this.
Right. You want me to come back?
Please. I intend to publish the truth about Oliver Blaydes.
Well, that's what we all want to do, dear.
What do you mean by the truth?
But we all know the truth to be in our hearts.
I deny it. I deny it utterly. I am firmly convinced the explanation I have given is the true one.
Well, then I'll give the explanation that was given to me.
Isabel, I should have thought that you, among all people, would have wanted to believe in Oliver Blaydes.
Wanted to? If wanting was the same as believing, how easy life would be.
It is very nearly the same, dear, if you try very hard. I have found it a great comfort on all levels.
I beg you to reconsider. I had the friendship of Oliver Blaydes for nearly 30 years, and I tell you frankly, I will not stand by and let the slander of a dead man go unchallenged.
Which dead man?
The slander of Oliver Blaydes.
Well, it won't be slander, for I shall tell the truth about him.
Then I shall tell the truth too.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Royce. Septima?
Oh, good. Well, that's all right then.
Your father and I have been discussing it, and that matter that we were talking about the other day. Your father has a theory that Jenkins wrote the 1863 volume, and your grandmother...
An old man, his faculties rapidly going.
Got it muddled.
Good for you, Father. I see, of course. Then it was hallucination after all.
It's a certainty. Come, we have much work to do. We have much work to do on the life of this chivalrous, this noble man, Oliver Blaydes.
It's absurd.
I was afraid you wouldn't appreciate it. Now, what are you going to do?
The only thing I can do, tell the world the truth.
wonder if the world will be grateful.
Does it matter?
I think it does. Make you feel you ought to feel that you're benefiting somebody other than yourself.
I'm hardly benefiting myself.
Well, not materially, but spiritually. Aren't you just easing your conscience?
Shouldn't the poor thing be eased?
Especially other people's expense.
No, Austin. The truth must be the end. The only end. Give me truth or give me beauty. It's all we're here for.
The trouble is that the truth about Blaydes won't seem very beautiful. I mean, there's your truth and then there's William's truth. And to the public at large, it won't seem so much as beauty as it will seem like an undignified family squabble. No, it's no good. You can't start another miserable Shakespeare-Bacon controversy because that's all it will be in the end. You know, established truth, only a Jenkins theory. And all the man on the street will know is that at some point some fellow named Jenkins tried to steal Blaydes' poetry. Hadn't we better just leave him with the poetry?
It just seems so unfair. This poor boy gave his life for this immortality.
Hasn't he got it? I mean, there are his works. Didn't he have the wonderful happiness and pain of writing them? What can you do for him now? It's just pure sentiment, isn't it?
If you say so, sir.
To my lecturing, I'm sorry.
No, you're right. I can't do anything. Are one's motives ever pure?
One hopes so. One never knows.
I keep saying that I want the truth to prevail. Is that it, or am I trying to punish him? He hurt me so. All those years he was pretending that I was helping him. Imagine it, my criticism, my advice, my help, and there were the masterpieces written 60 years ago by someone else. Just a joke to him. He was laughing. If you wonder why I'm bitter.
Well, as he said, he was carrying it off.
Yes, even in those last moments he was carrying it off. First he seemed afraid of dying. It was so lonely in the grave. No one to listen, to admire, only God. How quickly the artist returned as soon as he started telling me his story. No remorse, no fear, just an artist glorying in his stories. I could see that young man so vividly that I wanted to reach my hands out to him and say, "Oh, darling, I will help you." Oliver Blaydes. My father, yes. He never quite seemed that. A great man, a little man, but never quite my father.
A great man, I think.
Yes. And I suppose he's done less harm than most great men do.
And we can tear up this.
Yes. Let's bury the dead and be done with them. There.
Isabel.
No, she's dead too. Let's forget about her.
No, she's not dead. I've seen her.
When did you see her?
Today. Today I saw her. She peeked out for a moment, and then she was gone.
She just peeped out to say goodbye to you.
To say, how do you do to me?
She's been dead 18 years, poor girl.
Then introduce me to her mother.
Mr. Royce, I would like you to meet my mother, 38, poor dear. Mr. Royce, it's lovely to meet you. I've had my daughter speak with you.
I'm delighted to meet you as well. For you know, I once asked your daughter to marry me.
Oh.
And you know what she said? She said, like all properly brought up girls, you must ask my mother. And so I ask you, Mrs. Blaydes, will you marry me?
Don't.
Isabel's right. I'm too old for her. I've got a little grey and a bit of rheumatism about me somewhere. And you know what I need? I need a nurse. Isabel says you're a born nurse, so Isabel's mother, will you marry me?
Don't. You're only asking me because you feel sorry for me. Because I'm lonely and poor.
What selfish to be harping on like that?
selfish.
Talking about your loneliness, what about my loneliness?
You're not lonely.
Shall be if you don't marry me.
I'm afraid to. I shall be so jealous
Jealous of whom?
of that girl we call my daughter. You will be looking for her. You'll try to hide it from me. You will look for her, and I will see you looking for her.
Then I shall find her.
No, that was a long time ago.
I shall find her. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow, but someday. Perhaps it will be on a day in April, when the primroses are out among the wood stacks, and there's a chatter of rooks in the tall elms, and then a child again, she will laugh with joy, the clean, blue morning, and I shall find her. And when I have found her, I shall say,
Yes?
I shall say, thank God you are so much like your mother, whom I love.
No, it can't be true.
Yes, it is true. I want you, not her.
Oh, my darling.
Isabel? Isabel, I had to come and tell you how hurt William is. Don't you think you could believe for his sake?
Don't worry, Marion. I won't say a word.
You mean you believe? William, she believes.
I'm very glad to hear it. And now that we all agree on the facts, I think I shall definitely include the story of how Oliver Blaydes chivalrously tried to help his friend, definitely assigning the 1863 volume to Jenkins.
Yes, William.
I feel strongly, and I'm sure you all agree, that we ought to do our best to tell the whole truth about this great man.
Do I say yes again? Yes, William.